Hello and welcome. This is Business Incorporated coming to you live from Lagos. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwawo. Coming up on the program today, Kenya's president signs into law a bill capping commercial bank lending rates. South Africa's Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan refuses to appear before the police today. Plus, agricultural cluster integrated produce city set to come on board in Nigeria. What will begin in Kenya as President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed into law a bill capping commercial bank lending rates, saying banks had in the past failed to live up to pledges to lower their rates when Parliament tried to introduce caps. Parliament passed changes to the banking law in early August to cap commercial interest rates at 400 basis points above the central bank's policy rate, now 10.5%. The changes had since been awaiting presidential approval. Now let's bring in the head of banking research at Eco Capital, George Bodo, to talk to us about this. Good afternoon, George.
Good afternoon.
Now, finally, President Kenyatta has signed the law, or rather the bill capping bank lending rates, with the initial opposition coming from the central bank governor and the finance minister concerning this. Are you surprised that the president still went ahead to sign this bill?
Yeah, it was a very big surprise for the market and especially commercial banks. And even myself, it was a big surprise to me because the president has previously proved to be more of a consensus builder than compromising position, especially when it comes to that situation. So I was expecting the president to build some form of consensus rather than take a compromise.
Now, President Kenyatta made it clear that this is the third time Parliament had tried to reduce interest rates and that banks had promised just as they did in this case to lower rates, but they go on reneging on this promises. Is this correct? What do you have to say about this?
To a certain extent, it was right, the statement. And I think the whole bill was about the public frustration with the banks. I think the relationship between the banks and the public has never been good. And you could actually see that the president's statement capturing the public's frustration with the banks. The banks have previously made promises that they would not met on two occasions.
Right, and of course...
but I think that I think that if you ask me, this is not going to achieve the intended goal. It's going to be counterproductive for a number of reasons. I think I will highlight three key reasons why this is not going to be productive. It's going to be counterproductive. Sorry. Number one is that it requires significant fiscal adjustment to the extent that Treasury has to cut down its domestic borrowing activities. Because if they don't and risk-free rates are above lending rates up, banks would rather not lend the economy by risk-free rate assets. And number two is that banks, if you look at the risk profile of banks, what this law requires is that banks have to match their assets from a liability perspective. And we've known that Kenya has one of the most acute mismatch between assets and liabilities. In a situation where they're forced to do that, they would rather exit the longer tenure assets, which is exposure to consumer business, rather to manage the book. So I'm seeing a situation where banks would have to exit the consumer market, especially some of those CIB plus mass market focused banks.
Well, George, now the law has come to stay. What's the way forward?
Thank you. I think banks have to make certain adjustments to their business model. And I'm saying that because I know that there's no recourse to this. And some of the adjustments banks have to make is banks now have to match their assets because now the amount of repricing risk and interest rate risk that are exposed to is quite significant. Banks can no longer reprice their assets upwards if they're faced with the high cost of funds. They've got to match their asset book. That's number one. Number two is that banks have to define what is interest income going forward. I think previously banks have built a business around wide interest spreads. the interest income to banks in Kenya has always been wide interest rate spread. The wide interest rate spread is not there anymore. Now, interest income is going to be a volume game. They've got to volumize this business, in my view. The final adjustment they've got to make is customer service. Consumer business in Kenya is going to be a very competitive affair, and banks have to compete on customer excellence.
All right. Thank you very much, George, for your time. I'm sure I would have to call you again by the time the Central Bank meets with its policy committee. That's on September 20. Thank you, George, for your time. Now, let's now move to Frankfurt. My colleague there, Javier Arguedas, is standing by to talk to us. Good afternoon, Javier.
Good afternoon.
Now, the IFO Business Climate Index for Germany fell sharply to 106.2 in August. That's from 108.3 in the previous month. That's way below market expectation. Now, how is the market taking this data?
Well, the market is taking it quite badly. See the same data from the month before, you knew that it was actually not looking that bad, and now, as you already mentioned, it was a big disappointment in the sense that the index fell instead of going up, and that is causing losses in the stock markets as well. The reason is that most of this negative result or negative outlook on the economy was due to the fears of the consequences of the Brexit vote in the United Kingdom. But after that Brexit vote happened, all the numbers that were received, be it purchasing managers indices or outlooks for the economy, they were all actually pretty positive and brushed off those fears. And now we are having, for the first time, an indicator, an important one that people follow here in the stock exchange, that is actually negative and that sheds some bad outlooks for the economy and for the development of businesses. And that is why the markets are not necessarily that enthusiastic about it. It's also important to remember that the central banks have kept quite calm in their reactions to the Brexit vote, but this could change if we keep seeing negative indicators.
Right. Now, it seems the two biggest economies in Europe are facing some hard time now. French manufacturing business sentiment also fell in August, down below expectations. Why? Is it because of terror attacks, Brexit, or what?
Well, it's a combination, as always, of many factors, but of course the terror threat and the impact that that had on the tourism, which is one of the backbones of the French economy, and also the fears of a possible Brexit, or not a possible, but an imminent Brexit, and the uncertainty caused by the fact that we don't know when that Brexit is going to happen, that also somehow slows down the economic performance. However, that being said, we got other numbers that are actually speaking quite positively for the development of the French economy. The unemployment rate went down. We found out that today. That is very important because it is one of the most important indicators on how the economy is developing. And we also saw purchasing managers indices that were above expectations, especially in the services sector. So that could lead to a positive development of the French economy, which is going to be important also for President François Hollande, because he might be seeking a re-election, and that could only work if the economy is going strong.
Now, Javier, just before I let you go, the U.S. Treasury Department is warning the European Commission about taking action against U.S. companies over tax avoidance allegations. And this warning is coming ahead of Apple's ruling next month. The Commission is actually investigating tax deals granted to U.S. companies for setting up headquarters in Europe. What is the discussion about this in the market?
Well, it's a very heated debate. On the one hand, it is very clear that the states must get the money from their taxes. It cannot be that a company, be it from the United States or another country, is not paying what it should pay. But on the other hand, if we over-regulate the European Union, that will carry consequences. And it's a debate, a philosophical one if you want. Do we want to integrate and have measures that are similar or equal in all countries, or do we want to let countries compete to have better conditions? That is the big point here. Back over to you.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Javier. Well, we'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, Integrated Produce City set to come on board in Nigeria. What is it all about? Find out after the break.